Igbo kwezonu. Yeah. Oko nyamili, nyamili. Koko nyamili, nyamili. Koko nyamili, nyamili. Koko nyamili, nyamili. Ibole, ibole. Igbo bunu ndamamihe. Ibole, ibole. Igbo bunu ndamamihe. Ebulanyelu, 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 ebulanyelu. Anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke. Anamabara nụ n'ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke. Igbo bụ ndị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ ndị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ ndị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ ndị ike. Koko nyamini, nyamini. Koko nyamini, nyamini. Koko nyamini, nyamini. Koko nyamini, nyamini. Hey! Cha 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 cha. Igbo kwezonu. Yeah. Cha 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 cha. Igbo kwezonu. Yeah. Ihe ji mara ndị ihe bụ ọrụ aka ha. Ihe ji mara ndị ihe bụ ihe aka ha. Ihe ji mara ndị ihe bụ ọrụ aka ha. Ụmụgbele anyị were omenala dowe n'azụ, were omenala ndị ọzọ bulie elu. Anyị were omenala Igbo dowe n'azụ, were omenala ndị ọzọ bulie elu. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke na ọ dịrọzi mma. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke ọ dịrọ mma. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke na ọ dịrọzi mma. Chei ụmụ Igbele. Anyị sị na Chineke anwụlugo nuo, ewere Chineke dobe n'akwụkwọ, a na-agọzi akwụkwọ. Anyị sị na Chineke na anwụlugo nuo.
Ndewo. Good morning. Ekele dịrị Chineke. Ebe ọbụla unu nọ, Chineke anụmarịọ unu. Anụmarịọ Chineke ka o nyere unu aka. Ka udo dịrị unu. Ka ọ bụkwa ahụ ife ọma unu hara afụ. What a wonderful day. We are still in the month of Ikenga. In October. I don't know how many of you are born into this awesome month. I know I'm one of them. I had a wonderful time yesterday with an outing with my husband yesterday. Oh God, it was just absolutely, just reminded me of 20 years ago. So it was really nice to celebrate my birthday. You know, it's my birthday month, October, so it's the whole month that I plan to celebrate. So yesterday was really, really wonderful. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm glad that you're here with us too. Wherever you are, I'm asking for nothing but goodness for you. You're here to listen and to learn on Chism Live, and giving us the opportunity to be with you each and every week. Today is a special day. I'm the one doing the lecture today. So I hope you plan to just listen to what I'm sharing today, and along will come the Otrajas to add to what the lecture is today. May Ahai Keoke Onyoha be eternally blessed for handing us this torch to continue the journey towards self-discovery and appreciation, because this is what this is. It's a journey, and we like to share that journey with you. And because you have allowed us into your space, we thank you and we assure you that your time will not be wasted. You're going to learn quite a bit today. But before we get started, let me offer this prayer before I bring your charges in. Let me offer this prayer. Chineke. This is for the cheesed soul, and those who will be cheesed, and those who don't know that they are, because cheesism is collective spiritual thought, collective spiritual goodwill from our African perspective, right where we are, God is. And if you believe that right where you are, the most powerful spirit is, you're a cheist. If you believe in tolerance and loving other human beings just as they are, without prejudice and without bitterness, you're a cheist. So I offer this prayer for all of us cheists out there, those who know it and even those who don't know. Chineke, thank you for this wonderful opportunity today. Gathered here are some people who may struggle and have challenges that they faced yesterday and they face today and may face tomorrow. Thank you for reminding us that it's okay to struggle, because these challenges come in all forms. But we must understand that although we may be suffering from different things, diseases or whatever, you are just preparing us for good health. Remind us, Chineke, though we may feel ill, may be suffering from some disease or the other, please, Chineke, remind us that you are preparing us for a good health. Chineke, remind everyone underneath the sound of my voice of the importance of even finding yourself in a state of confusion, because this is your process of preparing us for clarity. Yes, Chineke, even though we may find ourselves suffering from certain levels of hopelessness and helplessness, when we focus and pay attention and listen to you, listen inwardly, we will ultimately find our purpose. As we struggle and stumble and fail in many endeavors, Chineke, remind us that we are simply being prepared for our success. Chineke, as we struggle with things to eat, as we struggle for room and board, as we struggle for any means of shelter, please remind us that we are only being prepared for our prosperity. Prosperity comes with challenge, with struggle. Many may criticize us, and we may feel pained by the criticism, but please remind us that we are strictly being prepared for self-acceptance. Chineke, today many of us ache, we hurt, and we may feel defeated, but please be reminded that we are being prepared for joy. That is what you're preparing us for. Please, Chineke, even though we may feel bad because of what other people are doing or saying to us and create anger in our spirit, remind us that we are being prepared for forgiveness. We may not know what we need to know and languish in ignorance, but we know if we focus our minds on you, we realize that we are simply being prepared for your truth, to be wrapped around your truth, to be manifestations of you divine. We may find ourselves with nobody to love us, nobody to be with us, and we may be lonely and feel cast aside, but if we pay attention, we simply are being prepared for love. When we find love, we are prepared to stand face to face with Chineke. Anytime we are being prepared, it is Chineke preparing us to be prepared for our blessings to flow. We may not see it at the moment, we may not feel it at the moment, but it is coming as long as we focus on the Spirit, on the power of Spirit. Thank you, Chineke, divine mind, for picking us up, holding us up, and keeping us up. Chineke is in the healing business, in case you don't know. And we are willing to pay the price to be prepared with dignity and understanding. May every way of our lives be light and all our acts be crowned with good. And may the world prosper by the ministry of Chiism, Godianism. Situ ba rumbe ni lebi ebi, oto akosete, yagazie, no fo. I feel good. I would like to welcome Dibia Ochoaja. Add you to the stream. Okay, Dibia. Dibia Ochoaja, Mare.
No, I was just wondering, which is greener, the earth or you? Love it. Yeah, audience, everybody watching, as you mentioned, in way of your lives, the life, that this program will enrich your heart, enrich your mind, so that you can make better decisions and have a better relationship with teenagers.
Yagazie. Otitonile diri Chineke. We are breathing. You know, I think people don't understand the power of breath. Huh? That's the beginning of blessings. Huh? When our ancestors pray, they don't pray for Mercedes. They don't pray for all those things come when you are alive. Yamundo, Ogologondo, Abisike. Then Omomo, Ihejazumo. So all the other things come second. So all of us are so blessed today. This is the beginning of all that is good. You're here. You're walking amongst the living. Let me bring in Dibia Chedozie Udodorege Kano Image. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Unmute your mic.
I have a bit of an echo. I don't understand why. I do.
Dibia, we can't hear you. Unmute your mic. There we go. Yes, we can.
Loud and clear. I enjoyed your program. The moment we were before our ancestors, before the Almighty.
Yes.
I enjoyed every moment of it.
I am, you know, how enriched we are. I just want, before I even start my lecture today, and you see the title of our lecture today is A Fully Grown Up Tree Cannot Be Bent into a Walking Stick. That is my lecture today. But before I get into that, I just want to share something that maybe you know or you don't know. Not NYU, that's the University of New York. That's what it is, isn't it, Rudy?
Yeah.
A chemistry.
University.
Okay, a chemistry professor was fired recently. But let me tell you why he was fired. Because a group of biochemistry students found the coursework too upsetting and too hard. He was not passing anyone. And so they thought they were frustrated because they're all trying to become doctors. They want to get into the medical school, but he keeps failing them. So they filed a complaint and the university fired him. So they asked him, why were you fired? He says, well, they fired me because I'm too hard on students who don't want to do the work, whose ambition is to get into university, but not to do the work that's necessary to do so. And you know how COVID-19 had made a lot of people quite soft, you know, in terms of diligence for schoolwork.
Yeah.
So they fired him. But why did the university fire him? They fired him not because he was not a good professor. They fired him because if the kids are not graduating, then they're less likely to choose NYU University. So money will not be coming in. So to ensure that money comes in, you got to pass them. So the question I have to you, Professor Chiedozie, what kind of message does that send to other professors?
Well, the message that sends to other professors, you can look at it from the point of view of what we have here and the ongoing strike, it's that if you go to universities, The children believe that they must not fail because they have paid their money. And that is why we are fighting that the public schools must work. Because this is a place where you get the highest number of merit in part of the world. So at any time where we monetize education or monetize life,
Yes.
then money takes precedence over life.
That's right.
And society is going down the valley. That's my little take there.
That's right. Dibia.
Double-edged sword, right? On one hand, we're worried about resources coming into the institution. On the other hand, you're worried about your scholarship reputation. If you have incompetent graduates out there, let's say you're not doing the work, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and you find out that people that graduate from university have their patients always to do badly or even die. What does that say about your scholarship at that university and how does that affect your registration? How many people that are going to teach them that is turning out to graduates? So they need to really rethink their reason for following that guy and put the onus on the students as opposed to the professors.
That's right. Because you're not going to be, quite frankly, you're not going to be able to attract good professors.
Yeah.
You're not, because they'll be afraid of being fired for doing their job.
Exactly.
And then who are we training? People who are going to be responsible for our health care, and they're not willing to do the work, so they understand what they're doing. But I thought that was a very interesting development at that university, which is ricocheting all over the numerous universities.
Misplaced.
Very misplaced. And there'll be consequences. There's definitely going to be consequences for doing that. You know, people don't get it now, but they will soon. But anyway, welcome everyone. I just thought that was a nice little thing that we should talk about, because that has to do with you being a grown tree. Cannot be bent into a walking stick. And that university has been bent. It's now a walking stick. When it was a good university that people attended, now it has been changed, possibly forever. And other people, other universities, other students are going to be impacted. But going into my lecture, I don't have a PowerPoint today, I'm just going to talk. It's imperative for all of us to understand that Chineke designed our existence as humans to be fully anchored and not easily uprooted. To be fully anchored and not easily uprooted. It is easy when we abdicate our responsibility to understand why we're here, for guaranteeing that we stay fully entrenched in our spiritual grounding and birthright. It is when we start to abdicate that responsibility and put it in someone else's hand, that is when we stop being grounded and we're easily uprooted. In chapter 16, pay attention here, my people. In chapter 16, verse 5 of the Nkomi, it is written, "Do not focus on what you're asked to do. Instead, pour your soul into the hard work that is required to be delivered to a place of your own choosing, and disturb the delusion that you are compelled to be a tool, to be used and bent in the direction of another's whims and comforts." Think about what I just said. You are not designed by Chineke to be a tool, to be used, to be compelled to be other than what you were brought into this world to be. All of us were born into greatness, to be great. Not great to be rich necessarily, not great to be kings or queens or those kinds of things, but great to be good, solid human being, unraveled, unfazed by what's going on around you, by the dictates of other people. We are very easily, as a people, And sometimes we get all offended. Don't put me in there. I'm Navajo. I'm this, I'm that. I'm not African. We're distracted by people who convince us that attachment to what we are designed to be is a bad thing. So they tell you what we need to do. We've got to change. We have to become an other. They tell us what we need to be accepted. And unfortunately, when we believe them and live according to their desires, for us as individual human beings, what happens now is that we assume their prejudices. We make judgments based on how they have defined us to be, how we're supposed to act. We embrace their judgment, and it becomes our experiences and perception. Who are they? You know what? The good thing about life is that there's opportunities to study. I don't have to name names. You know what it is. Who are they? Who are you modeling your existence after? Who are you trying to be like? Whose experiences and perceptions have you adopted at the expense of who you are? When you adopt those perceptions and experiences, then you know what we do. We then pass it on to other individuals within the committee of our own communities. We start spreading those judgments and perceptions. And we start being judgmental of our own people who have embraced and are quite comfortable with the ways of the ancestors. We start dictating for them because it's been dictated to us. We're no longer who we are. So as we become more and more judgmental, we become less and less secure in our own skin, in our own mind. We revile change. We fear change. And then we become fearful because we've gotten comfortable being dictated by others where and what we should be. That's comfortable. You don't have to make waves. After all, they know better. Whoever they are, draw your conclusions. We become fearful. Having been convinced that another person's way is the right way, we now adopt and we refuse to move beyond that. And we feel threatened by those who want to remind us to go back to the way we used to be. And people say to me, well, what is the way we used to be? The way we used to be is that we were mentally in charge of our own description of who we are. For those who think being African means, oh, you got to claim being a king or a queen and all of that, that's romanticizing Africanness. Not all of us came from kings and queens, but we came from ancestors who understood nature, who understood how to relate to the universe, who had understood preservation and how preservation also helps you preserve who you are. When we say go back to that, that's what we're saying. Not the romanticized aspect or concept of being African. And when you can't find that, you get angry. That's not who I am. Adopting something that's not yours does not make you greater. It makes you less. It makes you less. Because now you don't go after the people who have told you that you're wrong, or rather, who have sold you the goods, the bill of goods. You don't go after them anymore. You go after those who remain who they are, who are authentic. You go after them and you want to tell them they are wrong. And you do everything within your power to convince them that they are wrong and you're right. And that your new way is right and the old way is wrong. You don't want to be proven wrong. You become so entrenched in your new belief. And you begin to use it as a weapon to control others within your community, to make them think or behave the way you've been conditioned to behave and think. But you have a tendency, those who have been conditioned and now think differently, now think they are superior. They're superior to their own people because the new way is better. The old way is primitive. Because we too have been convinced to behave a certain way, we start to feel guilty. If anybody even wants to mention to us, don't think that way, we feel guilty. We pounce. Instead of growing into what we're supposed to be, what we're ordained to be as human beings, we begin to move backwards. This is particularly as it relates to the people of African descent, people of color worldwide. We are going backwards. Now, people tend to think when you have economic opulence and technological know-how, that means that you're civilized. No. As Ahaike Okeonyo has said, redefine civilization to be your ability to be self-sustaining and live amicably with your fellow human beings, without bitterness, without quarrels. That then represents spiritual behavior, civilized behavior, and self-acceptance. To be, my brothers and sisters, fully developed human beings, we cannot only do those things that we have been told that we should do, because when we do that, we never learn the new way to reenact our glorious past into the present, to be that which we are supposed to be. If you're an Igbo man, you're an Igbo man. You can't change that. That's who you are. If you're an Igbo woman, you're Igbo. If you're Yoruba, Hausa, Efik, Ibibio, Akan, South African, Angolan, Ethiopian, Kenyan, etc., Cameroonian, that is your Akaraka. That's what Chineke wanted you to be. And that's where your talent lies. You have to dig into it and find your true self. And not feel guilty and not feel bad. And don't impose on other people in your community to accept the new way of thinking. And that new way always is, I'm not good enough. I gotta adapt. I gotta adopt this new thing. I gotta be these people. I have to be like them. I have to be their color. I have to have their hair. I have to do this. All of those things are conditioning, but it doesn't end with us, because now we have to spread it. We have to make sure that the people around us become comfortable with what we believe, because we've gotten comfortable with it. We stay in this familiar place designed by others, and we refuse to seek our own path so we can see more of what life is supposed to be for us. It is maddening, if I may use that expression, to listen to so-called educated people babble about nonsense. And you know it's nonsense. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't even have anything to do with reality. What has happened to us now is we're no longer responsible for ourselves. We fall apart when the people who have indoctrinated us leave. Once they leave, we're broken. We don't know what to do. We start to fall apart, because the truth of the matter is they held us together because they have convinced us to become walking sticks. They have reduced us from a whole tree to a stick. And you know what happens to a stick. You can break it easily. But a whole tree you can't break. But part of conquering our minds is to mentally teach us how not to be rooted, not to be trees, but to become sticks. And then we use our little way. Now we are sticks now. We are running around, whipping everybody around us who has the audacity to want to continue to be rooted, who want to continue to be trees. So I end my lecture by reminding us, if you think that you're going to do better by being someone else, you will not. As I said earlier, what Dinkomi said, focus not what on you are asked to be or do. Focus on what your strengths are. pour your soul into hard work. Do what your ancestors did. Find out how they did it. It may not have led them to become millionaires. It may not have led them to become kings or queens. But one thing it made them do, until the disruption stepped in, is to be who they are. So the question now is, who's holding your mind? Who's responsible for making you a walking stick? Are you going to remain a walking stick, or is it time for you to become another, what you were designed to be, a tree? Yagazino. That's my lecture. Your thoughts, Yudi?
Well, on the money, as always, what can I say? What it reminds me of, John F. Kennedy, former president of the United States, rest his soul, during his speech, said, ask not what your country can do, but what you can do for your country. And it reminds me of Africa's, the political, a lot of the political is up high.
You said?
Worry about the community.
Mm-hmm.
Stop worrying about
Yes.
Stop asking like, if nothing is saying you spiritually, you follow God.
That's right.
Here's the church. Africa, the way the black men and women in Africa was treated, you were treated like you were less than man. So there was this effort to get everything alley, right?
Yes.
The narrative out that Africans the European. Oh yeah, we did. We fought until we couldn't fight anymore. It was a question of the gun and the spear. And the gun won. Mm-hmm. Most colonized communities in the world did one thing, not because they were smarter than we were, but because the level of onslaught that was leveled at us was not minimized the way it was leveled on India or China. They were able to maintain their traditional spiritual institutions.
Yes.
Remember, the greatest weapon against imperialism is culture.
Yes.
And culture is part of religion. Every human system is a product of religion. From your economic, political, social, judicial. They are all constructs from religion, which was the first spiritual education that a human being received when a person realized that there is something greater than themselves. And that something is the Almighty Chineke, or God in English. And religion became automatic in them. That's the etymology. That's the true meaning of religion. Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, these are all philosophies that have one goal and one goal in common: to help us walk in the way of the Creator, to understand spirituality a little bit better and how we should treat ourselves and our environment. That is the goal. That is the etymology. That's what it actually means. When people talk about religion, those are philosophies. That's what they are. That's what religion is. It is unfortunate, like you mentioned, in the medical doctors, people that are scientists, that believe that the world was created in 7 days. Really? It doesn't even take 10 days for you to grow a harvest it. How long does it take to do that? How long does it take for a human being to be born to become an adult? Or till they can even fall? How long does it take a fly from when the egg was made to becoming an adult to becoming a fly? How long does it take a butterfly to be an egg, a rabbit, a pupa, and then a butterfly? Does it take 7 days for a scientist, or a doctor, or an astrophysicist, or an engineer for a nerd, people that have that need to live it through science to believe that the earth was created in 7 days, that just goes to tell you the effect that religion has on us. And this is not just white doctors, Chinese doctors that believe the same thing. Now, my thing is, do you actually believe that? Or is this just for you to satisfy one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a need to belong somewhere? You have your physiological need, you have your need for love, you have your need for belongingness, you have a need for self-esteem, you have a need for self-actualization. What part of Maslow's hierarchy of need are you trying to satisfy to believe that the world was created in 7 days and on the seventh day, he rested? Let there be light, and there was light. Really? Now, when you write those things into the Bible, let there be trees and let there be animals, and all those things just manifest through magic. Why do you call my own spirituality voodoo and magic and witchery? When in the Bible, creation itself is about wizardry. It's about waving a magic wand and bam, let there be light, and there was light. Really? How long do you think it took the universe to be formed? How long did it take the earth to be formed to sustain life? How long did our solar system, how long did it take for our solar system to be formed? Why do people in science get their minds so jacked up and mesmerized that they believe that the world was created in 7 days? And for us that believe that narrative and look down on our own spirituality, on our own processes, on mysticism and images, why do we now believe that the earth being created in 7 days is not wizardry? That is the highest form of witchery and wizardry. You propagate that in the Bible, you praise that as real, as the truth, as God's word, but you look down on something that is a little bit more practical and makes sense. The world wasn't created in 7 days. Religion and science are not strange bedfellows. They go hand in hand. Religion comes in when you don't understand science, when you don't understand the scientific reason why something exists. So you ascribe it to something greater than yourself. That something is the Almighty God, because you didn't create those things. You didn't create the air you breathe, the animals that you eat, the fruits and the trees that are out there. You didn't create it. You ascribe it to something greater than yourself. That's religion. That's God. But when you study it scientifically, you can find a scientific reason and proof of how these things came about. Science has always been considered the enemy of religion. I beg to differ, but that's what they say. But religion and science go hand in hand. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it's magic. Time heals all wounds. It takes time to do research and understand these relationships. In ancient times, when the volcano erupts, what happens, especially in Rome? It's ascribed to a Roman god, to a deity. Same thing in Indonesia. This god or that god is alive. This god or that god is angry. But they're not angry. Volcanic eruption is part of the creation process made possible by the Creator. It's part of time. It's a time element. It is necessary to sustain life. We need volcanoes to form land. It's part of the magic, if you want to call it that, of the mysticism of creation. There's no God responsible for volcano doing anything. There's no specific God. We ascribe those things because we don't understand it. And we ascribe those things, ascribing these deities to natural phenomena that particularly can take life or create life is also a way of behavioral control. You have to be scared of something. There has to be some kind of consequences for you to conform to certain societal norms. It's like checks and balances. If there's no punishment for murder, people are going to just murder people anyway they want to take what you want. There's no consequences. These natural phenomena that have the power to create life or take life is part of what we ascribe as consequences for what we may have or may not have done against our fellow human beings or against nature. They say nature is angry. No, nature is not angry. Nature is not doing what nature does. You just happen to be in the way. Nobody told you to build a house next to Mount Etna when he erupted and then killed so many people. Then all of a sudden, oh, we did something wrong. That's why Mount Etna erupted. No, what that was going to work, whether you were there or not there, you just happen to be people enough to the city right next to it. Etna erupted. It's thousands. Everybody in there that was going to pass, that it was good, is divine duty of creating life. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
I think that from the guy the sharecropper to the university graduate who believes that the world was created in 7 days, they need to listen to this that I just talked about. Listen to what you just said, and then maybe we will better understand it.
Okay. Ashe. Okay. Dibia Traja. Dibia Chedozie. Your thoughts.
I think. All right. How to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I want to summarize what you and Dibia Chaja have been saying about a whole green tree cannot be bent into a walking stick. All I get from all the analysis you have done so far is the issue of identity. Who are you and who are we? And we have talked about this several times. And I think we are solving the problem in the sense that what we are saying is being documented. And so people cannot just read it, people can access it on YouTube, on Facebook, and other places. And I can see the media people behind trying to tell us where we can go and then socialize and cheese. I say this because one fundamental thing that works against us is that unlike other people who have their thoughts of their ancestors documented, written, we came largely from a background of oral tradition. I believe that we will, but because of the system of the Dibia, those in the Dibia class knew the secrets, and by the time the colonial masters came, those were the first people they decimated to ensure that we do not have those who have our written system that will educate us. So we have to start all over from scratch. That's the essential problem we are facing today. Because one of the essential problems with oral tradition is that Okaapa, Nedetu Edetu, Osikukula, when you talk, which is why we are not talking and talking in vain now, as we are talking now, it's being documented. And our children, even now, can key into it. Several other people can key into it. And our children of the future can key into it. That is one thing that helped the Jews. Like I keep saying the other time I was with someone, when I said so, he said, no, the Jews, insofar as the Jews reject Jesus Christ, he does not like the Jews. I said, well, you are nobody to dictate to a whole people how they should take their brother. And I asked him, he said, I'm being insulted to Jesus Christ. I said, please come, I beg your pardon. The brothers of Jesus Christ have refused to accept him the way Rome sold it to them. Because what the Jews are kicking against is that they are not throwing away Yeshua. They still call him Yeshua. They call him Joshua. They live by the principle. But they are telling Rome, you cannot come and repackage my culture and force it down my neck. We will not accept that. And so the Jews refused Jesus Christ the way it has been packaged by Rome in Christianity, and they're his brothers. And then the Arabs, his cousins, reject him the way the same Rome packaged Jesus Christ in Christianity. The Arabs, his cousins, reject it. Then it is I, the African, that should carry it on my head? No, I beg your pardon. So you see, I mentioned the Jews because they were enslaved. Their bodies were enslaved, but their minds were not enslaved. And that is because they had documents. So what they did was, when they were dispatched away from Palestine, everywhere they went with their documents. And they went with the heart of the document, the Torah. And they kept it, teaching it to their children. Even when they were disallowed from the schools throughout the whole of Europe, Jews were not allowed in the schools. But they kept teaching their children the Torah. And eventually, when their children were let into the schools and they were given formal education, they just kept interpreting the Torah into physics, into the sciences, into law, into philosophy. And that is why, from the Renaissance up to the Enlightenment till today, there is no invention in Europe that the Jew is not involved. So it's like we are talking today, us getting entrenched into Dibia, into Alpha, into Nkomi, into Abriko. We train our children in it, which is what we should be doing. Our children, that's what they should learn from home, from kindergarten. When we now expose them to formal education, wow, we give them wings to fly. But like I keep saying, the African tree is growing upside down. The branches and leaves are to the soil, and the roots are skywards. And that is the problem that we have. And we are fighting that. We are solving that. One way of solving it is to make sure that our spirituality is taught, is well documented, and we move it beyond oral tradition. Because the problem with oral tradition is that where your father of 1,000 years what he said, you will try to capture it exactly the same way. But if you wrote it down, you add up whatever we say in a different way, becomes an addition. So that is the problem we are facing today. And that is why somebody who, you don't blame them, somebody who it has been written, magic, Juju has been written that God created the world in 7 days. And in 6 days, not even 7 days. God created the world, the whole universe, not this world, the entire universe. God created all of that in 6 days. Then on the 7th day, he rested. As if God is a human being like us that to rest. So that is pure voodoo. But because it has been written, and then you have feelings about it, like Jesus Christ. There are feelings about Jesus Christ. I remember one time, my cousin was just growing up. My cousin was growing up. He was then in secondary school. And I went to visit them during Christmas. And he told me, Uncle, you don't believe in Jesus Christ? I said, I don't know. He said, I know Jesus Christ, but how do you know Jesus Christ? He said, Jesus Christ is the king. I said, well, that's not Jesus Christ. He said, who is that? I said, that is somebody acting Jesus Christ. Oh, he was downcast. I said, no, I know Jesus Christ. He pointed to the image. He said, that's Jesus Christ. And the almanac. I said, that's not Jesus Christ. It's a picture of Jesus Christ. Even the father looked at me. You know that after that, they had to remove the image. I said, that's somebody acting Jesus Christ. And I gave them a book to read, Escape from Reading by Francis Schaeffer. Up to the 14th century, there were no pictures of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Mary, and Joseph were represented by the 3 stars. The first person that painted the picture of Mary painted Agnesaurus, the mistress of King Louis XIV, as Mary with the breast exposed, mimicking the ancient Egyptian Ossa. But at this stage today, people take and then Michelangelo created his uncle as Jesus Christ. And people take these pictures these days, they put it to their chest and believe in Jesus Christ. So it is because things have been documented. And to sum up Napoleon Bonaparte said, history is a lie, the fable agreed upon. And people may not understand, because even today, like That is why we always ask for the opinion of different people. That particular lecturer that told his story, the school have told their story. If the press and the people are not sensible enough to go and ask his own opinion, what the lie the institution has told, the managers of the institution have told, will be what will endure in history. And people will read it as correct because it's what is available to them. All right? But because the man has been asked his own view and he has stated his own view, it becomes strong. And so that is why Emeagwali said, when his father asked him, the warrior and the writer, who is mightier? He, as a little boy, answered, said, the warrior. The father shook his head in disagreement and said, it is the writer. Emeagwali said, why? He said, because we Africans have been playing the warrior. And other people have been writing our story. And they write the story the way that suits them. The greatest mishap to any man, any woman, is that another person, your hater, your loafer, tells your story to your children. That is what has happened to us Africans.
That is so true. So true. You know, I have a question then, you know, because every problem has to have a solution. And we keep talking about go back to our ways, which is good, you know, just like Dibia has said, Chiedozie, you know, we're recording all of these things. But I find that perhaps the most difficult part of making anything happen is the family. Because it's the family that's feeding, you know, the young people what to believe in, how to act. And as long as the family hasn't grasped it, you know what I'm saying? The children will always be in, you know, in turmoil when they get out of the family, and the families say one thing, and then they get out there, they hear another thing. It causes confusion. So I think that we have to have a way of reconditioning mom and dad, you know, because the youth are the future, right? And we want them to be the one to lead tomorrow. But a lot of the people who are feeding them the jargon is mom and dad. Because what mom and dad know and believe is what they feed the children. I know kids that you would say something, they'll stop you in a minute and say, no, that's not what my mom said. That's not what my dad said. So it doesn't matter what the truth is. If mom and dad don't say it's this, you know, it's true, then they're not going to respond accordingly. So the programming has to start from the home. It really has to. The children watch what you say, but when they go back, they get conflicted because it doesn't meld with what mom and dad are saying for them to do. So here again, it's important for the parents to understand that the condition of our world is because of us. Our unwillingness to move the needle away from what we've been taught. And then, you know, like I said earlier, once the people who brought it to us, once they leave, right, then we start the whipping. You know, because we're all sticks down. So, you know, you use a stick to whip. So we now start to whip people who are already rooted and strong. We want to break them into little pieces and make them just like us. So these parents are a bunch of, many of our parents, I'm sorry, my brothers and sisters, you may not like it. We're sticks. And we're using our condition as sticks to whip the strong people into shape to be like us. So how do you get this done in the family? How do you change the minds of mom and dad so that the little ones, the young ones, can learn what they need to learn?
You can't change the parent. It's nice from a micro perspective. It would be nice to do, just like mom and dad did us. Dr. Kiba is listening to his realization, not because mom and dad is tradition of God. For me, there are two poles. Let me go back a little bit. Most religions spread one way and one way only, through what we call imperial patronage. It is the leadership of the community that determines the state religion. And by any means necessary, spreads it so that it permeates within the activity. China did it with Buddhists, so on and so forth. Even though they have their own tradition of religion, Buddhism empowers it. Buddhism became the order of the day. Like that. And that was it. What we're doing right now, from a macro perspective, what we're doing right now, creating institutions, having media, that put the information out there, different thing now. You don't have to write books now for people to get the information that you want. It is through media. I have to be consistent about it. We come, we have this program every week, we have websites, we have groups, we talk about it. There are a myriad of other organizations that profess similar ideas as we do. Maybe the presentation is different, but there's so many quote unquote woke people out there that got woke, not because they got it in their family, they went to church, but because they got it out there through media, through dissemination of information. And finally, if you have leadership that sees what we see, that understands the damage of foreign religion, how the control of our psyche is directly responsible for the condition of Africa today and our diasporan communities, the corruption, the hatred, the green-eyed monster, the self-hatred, lack of love for things that are authentically African, because the priority as far as religion is concerned and the way that we mesh with knowledge of the Creator is foreign. Is Christian in Africa or is Muslim? We are never given the same or equal amount of attention that traditional religions in every African community should have. We're not asking these people not to be Christians, for crying out loud. We're not asking them not to be Muslim either, because you create a larger headache. There are people that are lost. They are lost already. You're not bringing them back. But we need an environment. We need to cultivate an environment where traditional spirituality, religion, knowledge gets the same level of understanding, acceptance as we give Christianism, Islam, or any other foreign religion that permeates Africa. If we are able to do that, if you go to Abuja and you see a giant mosque over there, or a giant cathedral over there, you should also see a giant Obafemi in there. If you go to Mbise and put up a Catholic cathedral, you should be able to go to Mbise and put up a giant African place of worship too. Traditional religion, through leadership and through organizations, should do everything we can to put ourselves on the same par as these other religions. But one thing you got to understand, man, people don't care how they're blessed, they'll get it. And I'm saying it to everybody out there. People don't really care how they get that blessing. If you come in with traditional religious principles and create conditions and institutions that benefit the community, and the community is feeding off of that institution, guess what? They will turn from Christianity straight to that traditional religion, and that's where they're going to be. So it's not a question of getting the families to start to educate their children. No, you have to tackle. There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most people are at the need, the bottom line. 80% of humanity is trying to feed themselves, put a roof over their head, and clothes on their back. Create institutions that are just that. You will find out that these die-hard Bible quoting, Quran quoting Africans will turn around and follow you Because by following you and satisfying the first rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they will find themselves elevated to the second rung, based on African spirituality, based on what you are doing for them or the benefit of them. And before you know it, they will follow your algorithm of self-actualization, whatever that means to them. So for me, it's a question of using African spirituality through leadership and organizations like ours to identify, to deal with the first rung of the human need, which is the need for food, shelter, clothes on your back. So that they understand that you don't have to be a Muslim to eat. You don't have to be a Christian to eat. Bless them by giving spirituality the same level of attention that we give to foreign religions. And you will find that gradually we become the majority and they become just as they are in any other place where Christianism or Islam is the major. That's
Very
how
good.
I see it. That's how I see it.
Very good. Very good. I just want to add this. The reason why I made that, and you're very correct, but sometimes that you almost literally have to start from scratch to make a real concerted difference. You know, now you have few individuals that once you set up these institutions, they're very good. You know, because it gives the young people an alternative where to go to get information and learn more. But I find that there are some communities, there are some African parents who have realized the damage being done, not necessarily as an effort to speak ill of globalization, not that, or to say that that diversity is bad. That's not it. What they have realized, however, is that their children, their little ones, are being indoctrinated in a way that doesn't really help them be who they are or achieve as much as they possibly can. So they have actually, here in Georgia, there are groups of African Americans who are buying land, okay, to create their own city, to create their own community, you see. And in that community, you have their own spiritual. Do you understand? Instead of a church, they have their own spiritual organization. Do you understand? They have their own school. Because when all is said and done, if you start indoctrinating them when they're little, okay, you have 10 indoctrinated children, okay? Maybe 3 of them may leave the indoctrination, but 7 continue to perpetuate. Do you understand? So you're not quite getting what you need. I mean, you get some of it, but not quite as much as you can. But in doing so, you have 10 children raised in a community that perpetuates self-love, self-acceptance. Maybe 1 out of those 10 will divert, but you've got 9. So what they're saying is they have their own teachers, their own psychologists, their own doctors. In other words, they are creating their own community from the perspective of teaching their children, this is who you are. Appreciate. It's okay for you to go out and see the world. But when you come back, don't forget who you are. Don't forget to whom you belong. There's nothing that makes a child walk taller than being reminded who they are. I've been to schools where I did presentations about Africans, and I've always found that the children of African people stay in the back unless it's a predominantly African school, unless it's predominantly an African American school. But if it's a mixed, diverse school, I always find that the children who are in the back, particularly if they are a lot of minorities, the minority children don't ask me questions. They don't. And I've always wondered, now I'm not saying this will happen everywhere, but I have gone to a lot of schools, elementary schools, high schools. I have found that the most curious are the European kids. about me, about African. The rest of them are shy. They literally don't want to say anything. They don't want to ask you anything because either they're not confident asking what they have in their minds, or they're afraid that the answer you give them may make them uncomfortable. So they don't ask. They don't want to find out anything about Africa that makes them uncomfortable. So that's the indoctrination when they're little. But when you go to a school that's African-centered, you can't shut them up. They're curious. They want to know. But who put them in those African-centered schools? Mom and dad. Because mom and dad are already African-centered. So it's okay for them to go there and embrace that. But a lot of parents who are not of that ilk, they tend not to, want to know too much. Do you understand what I'm saying? I praise this group. Again, it's not about anything against diversity. It is the realization that the reason why other ethnic groups are growing and you're not, and I don't talk about your technological know-how, I'm not talking about your academic prowess, I'm talking about your social and mental conditioning. I find that a lot of children who go to African-centered schools have more self-confidence in who they are.
I want to say something. In line with what you're saying. This is an observation that I had. It's not an observation, it's just me, Every colonized nation that doesn't or did not put its culture, its religion up front as a defense mechanism over imperialism is third world. From South America through Africa. You could call Saudi Arabia what you want. They may not be as advanced as everybody else. They don't have nuclear weapons or whatever. But one thing you could say about those people is nobody messes with them. That's the center of Islam. That's the biggest spiritual or religious competition to the West. When I say the West, what do I mean? Christianism. Judaism does not compete with anybody. These people they're very, it's like a close-knit family. You're not breaking through. You haven't broken through in 2,000 years. You're about to break through today. Islam has stood its grounds against Christianism, just like Dr. Chidozie mentioned. When you come in with your concoction of Christianity, you want to put it on them. They said, no. This is our understanding, based on our history. This is what it is. You could come with your crusaders, you could come with your army, you could do what the heck you want to do. We're not budging for anybody. Go to South America. Those people have forgotten that they're Mayans, Incas, and Aztecs. They had great civilizations until Cortez showed up. Montezuma was killed, and it was over. Same thing in Africa. If you don't have these institutions, if you cannot maintain them, if you are not open-minded enough to take in information from outside to let you know that you've been backing up the wrong tree and that what you've been doing has not been working. People are not practicing what they preach in this Christianism and Islam. Exclusive truth. My way or the highway becomes the norm. People that don't see that the world is not conforming to what they're doing spiritually, they're beyond. You can't touch it. Kudos to those parents that take in information from the outside and realize that these people are not practicing what they preach, understand or have access to their African history, to now see that they've always contributed to civilized behavior, understanding that life started in Africa and spread outward over 270,000 years ago. The first human being that we know as Lucy is African. A guy was discovered first, then after that, it was Lucy. Before the Neanderthals of Europe, we didn't have Neanderthals in Africa. We had other human species before the Neanderthals in Europe. There's enough information out there for people that actually are curious to understand that, number one, slavery was justified through Islam and Christianity. The Muslims were dealing with slaves way before the European came to sub-Saharan Africa to collect slaves. So this is just not a European thing. If you have a situation, like I explained earlier, where through imperial patronage, because that's how religions spread, through imperial patronage, when the authority in charge, when the government now decides to give the same level of audience that they give foreign religion, and they start to build institutions, just like you were mentioning, Okedibia, about this community that started building their own schools and all that, because the grown-ups weighed what is happening in the real world and what they're being taught, and then realizing through media and what have you, movies like Black Panther. Now we have the movie of the female, the woman king, and all that kind of stuff. South Africa now has a series based on their own Zulu warrior warfare and all that. It's a seasonal thing, just like you go to Netflix or you go to Prime Video here in America and you watch Lords of the Ring. They have that going on in South Africa. In Nigeria right now, what you have is that Nollywood is making movies where the Reverend Father goes into battle with the local medicine man, the Dibia. They call it the wizard. And who wins? The preacher wins. That's the kind of media that you have in Nigeria. They don't have media in Nigeria where the Christian preacher goes into battle with the traditionalist and the traditionalist wins. They're doing the imperial, how do you say, the objectives of your oppressor by using your own African media to step on your own people, step on your own culture, just stomp on your head every day. Churches everywhere. The government is not doing anything because you either have a Muslim government in Nigeria or you have a Christian government. If you say that you're a traditionalist and you want to run for political office in Nigeria, forget about it. Nobody is voting for you. You are a devil. Unless you profess Christianity, unless you profess Islam. So those institutions that justified your slavery and colonization in the first place and made you less of a human being is what we extol. That's what the leadership extols. That's the imperial patronage in Africa. This is just not a Nigerian problem. So unless institutionally, either we have communities that have now realized that what is preached is not what is being practiced, or we have a government that finally says it is important that we give the same level of attention to our traditional institutions, because this is how we governed ourselves before the European came in. Even if you have a Christian or Muslim person as a leader, they must recognize that and understand that, because it not only helps our local communities, but it helps our diasporan communities. It allows us to compete with the rest of the world. You create traditional institutions, historical institutions, political institutions, tourism attraction that makes people want to come from outside to your world to see what you got. Act like you contributed something to civilized behavior. Tourism is the largest industry in the world, and tourism includes science, includes natural places, includes your history, includes your religion, includes your artifacts, includes everything, your way of life, everything. We must pray, like you mentioned, to have these kinds of communities come up, that we end up with leadership in Africa that recognizes the importance of these cultural, traditional institutions as economic tools, and also ways galvanize them so that we can move forward and leave a legacy for the next generation.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very good points you made. Dibia Chiedozie, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. You see, it boils down. We are saying the same thing in different ways, and I think I love the perspective, Divya Ochoaja. I love the perspective you took it, because that was exactly what I was about to say. The problem goes beyond the home, because what did the colonial masters do when they came to Africa? Well, let us go back to Things Fall Apart. Chapter 23, the conversation between Akunna, the traditionalist, and Mr. Brown, the missionary. And so Mr. Brown went to Akunna to preach to him, to convert him, to bend the fully grown up tree into a walking stick. What happened? Akunna tutored Mr. Brown about Africa Igbo spirituality. And he discussed about, he talked about Chukwu. Mr. Brown, the missionary, talked about God. And then Mr. Brown talked about monotheism. Akunna talked about plural theism, diffuse theism, and told him, look, your queen is there in England. He's being represented here by the colonial master. Whatever order she's giving, we have to go through the district officer to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So there's hierarchy. And when Mr. Brown saw that, oh, well, it is difficult to convert the old, what did they do? What they did was to introduce a program of catch them young. So they left the old, and then they started building schools. And in those schools, they had to practicalize what the mandate they had been given. And that mandate was given far back by King Leopold. In Africa, go and build schools. The schools is to catch them young, teach African children how to read, but not how to reason. Educate them that greater than their own parents are the fathers of their soul, which is the Reverend Father in the church, the pastor. Those are the ones dictating to our children in the schools what they should be. And the parents that you are talking about today are the parents that grew up in the missionary schools. So they are already messed up in the mind. So trying to go to talk to them is like trying to take okoroko, stockfish, or azakurako, smoked fish, and then you want to boil it and cook it to stretch again. It cannot stretch. It will snap. The best we can do is to go back to necromancy. Going back to necromancy is not go back to what is negativity. It means go back to the ground. And the ground is what Dibia Ochoaja has talked about. The first thing we must do, which is what I've always said, we must possess a community. In fact, the program you're talking about, and that some people are starting in the US, in my place, they're asking me, why are you acquiring so much land? And I kept quiet. I've not told anybody why I'm acquiring so much land. Any land they say is close to my own. I know what I have in mind. Because I've looked at the people, they are messed up in mind. So I want to have a community within a community. In that community, every walk of life will be there. And I will practice two things there. Agogeto Liber, which is the principle of dialectics. And this is built on the principle of no location man. Charity begins at home.
That's right.
So that is the thing. And then we must everything that has been done to capture our children, our civilization, we must do to grow a new one. And in the process, the old ones who have behaved, who have strayed, will find it attractive and come back. Because the truth of the matter is, builders in the world are few. Admirers are many. That is why the Christian scripture says, many are called, but few are chosen. What they mean to say is that builders like you and I, who will take the strength, the pain, the endurance, the perseverance, the commitment.
Yes.
They are very, very, very few. And admirers And many. I remember when I started this journey, even my family, my own parents were against me. I was called into a meeting that affected the family circle, that I was disgracing the family.
Oh my
That
goodness.
was how bad it was. I was threatened that my school fees would not be paid. And I said I was ready to go to do a job and pay my school fee. And he said that my father said I was disgracing me. I said, who will I obey, he or me? And I said, he who called me, and that calling I have inside, if he called me, will make a way for me. So it was that bad. When I started here in the department, I was an outcast. I'm into Afa, I'm into Ifa, I'm doing traditional things. But when I started delivering PhD students, and these PhD students are using principles in Afa to critique Western scholars like Kant, Hegel, Heidegger, and they saw crack formalization of the African spirituality into metaphysics, into epistemology, into ethics, into logic, discussing the numerology of Afa, discussing Afa principle of phenomenology of life forces, and they saw strong philosophy. Now, my own trainer, who used to yap me, who trained me up to PhD, first degree and PhD, that's my professor here, who used to say, nobody sent me, I'm messing up philosophy. All of them are indirectly coming back into African philosophy. They are not talking about character formation. They are not talking about, but they are not acknowledging me, but at least they are coming back. So if you don't succeed, nobody celebrates success with you. And so we have to go back. We have to go into puppetry. We must go into animation. We must go into building, like the kind of thing that Bidion Judge had designed the something of Basi in Umporo. That kind of thing. We must take the ideas of your civilization in all walks of life. So you can imagine a little child of the African instead of watching these European Western cartoons. You are watching you are watching Turkish story package. Instead of going to E-Center, and what you are seeing is Arab civilization. What you go to E-Center, say everything is African, great African civilization. You pick up a phone, then you teach our children how to package food. In those phones, you put African animation. Like when you put phones made in China, made in Japan, you don't see European animation. You see Japanese animation, Korean animation, Chinese animation. You package phones. Those phones, the phones will sing in African language. You may even sing our Lord's beloved prayer in African language, in African culture. You even repackage Christmas to become African. You make the Christmas tree, Syrian tree, call it a Syrian tree, and put a black man image there. Change the area of black. So that is how we recapture the mind. Even the folk of Christianity, the so-called Islam, they have gone to Africanize them and build them on African spirituality. Once we do that, we will recapture the straight people by building on a strong foundation, because a tree must stand on the ground. That is the message I get from these particular Ilu, this particular Nkomi. A break up that you have. A tree must stand on the ground. We are not standing on any ground now. We must define our ground and be rooted in it so that it becomes like a village in the fig tree. If you uproot it from the ground where it grew, it will regrow again. So that we can always, like the banana tree, like the plantain tree, always bring out a new shoot that will replace us as we age out.
Yes.
They will.
They were very, very good. Both of you are absolutely right. You know, there's an Igbo proverb that says that when the mother goat breaks into the yam store, her kid watches her. Our children watch what we do.
Yep.
Our children watch what we do. So yes, the institutions are extremely important, and there's a program here also where when the children, if the mother and father can't read, they also create an opportunity to teach the mom and dad why the children are, because they understand the influence of the parents on the children. So if the child is learning to read and mom and dad can read, they realize that the child is going to need mom and dad's help, to continue the journey, the academic journey. So, but if they can't read, you understand? Either they don't help the child or they convince the child is, you're wasting your time. I'm this, I'm that. I didn't go to school. I didn't have to learn all that stuff, that sort of thing. So I think that in us presenting our institutions, we must encourage our elders, our moms and dads to participate. Because they too are lost. They don't know. They truly don't know. They need the opportunity to participate so they can see what's going on beyond what they've been taught. Just like my lecture today. When we are taught to think differently, when those people who have taught us that, when they leave, we're confused, and then we become the ones that teach what they're left behind. So that's very important. Now I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. An improved website.
Hold on, you. You. Wait, has it occurred to me that you still haven't subscribed to this channel yet? You haven't subscribed, you haven't followed the Facebook, you haven't checked out the website, nothing? No. Hold on, you're missing out down here. You're gonna have some fun. But big shout out to everybody who has been watching us for a long time. We've been doing this for years. We've been doing this for a long time, and this is the biggest we have ever reached out to people. And I do appreciate for everyone who watched the video to the end. It really helps us. We try to give out wisdom and information every single day. Much love to everybody. Make sure to follow the Facebook. Make sure to check out the website and the YouTube. We post 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can't miss that. Have a beautiful time. You have a blessed day. Wonderful day. Peace.
African Women Mobilization Commission Child Sponsorship Program. Here at OMSI, we believe that every child deserves a chance to thrive, no matter who they are or where they live, and that opportunities help a child to develop and build precious imagination. A healthy and imaginative mind can see the possibilities of the future, and a child with a future can weather the storms of life if given the right tools and the chance. Sponsoring a child helps a child to eat, get an education, have good health care, and gain a friend and mentor in you. I know you want to know more. Sponsor a child by visiting AfricanWomenCommission.net. After all, a child is waiting. Register to meet your sponsored child today.
I have to share with you why. I guess I don't know if it's because I'm a chiist that I have this joy in my heart when I do something positive for other people. I've seen my mother do it, I've seen my dad do it, and the joy that it gives them to do something positive. Recently, one young man who had an ear infection badly, a refugee at a camp in Maiduguri, was sponsored by three individuals, and this child had never been to a restaurant before. Neither has his mother. They live in this really awful spot. It has an awful spot in the universe. So, well, the ear infection, and I'm doing a video to compile all of that, was so bad it was oozing, and there was no money to treat him. The bottom line was that this child was destined. His name is Ahmed Abdullah, and he was destined to die. I mean, it was a given. The infection was just getting in there. So once I got him sponsored, we got him sponsored, he was taken to the hospital. They cleaned out his ears, gave medication, put medication in the ear, told the parents what to do to make sure that the infection does not come back, and in 2 weeks he has to go back again. And in addition to that, they took the national director from our organization. Let's remember that we are affiliated with OMSI. And they took them to the restaurant, and the mother of the child refused to go into the restaurant because he's never been there. She thought, I'm too poor, I don't deserve to be there. They told him no. They told her no. You know, it's okay, you can come, we're going to pay for you, you're going to eat. So she was in such awe. They asked Ahmed what he would like to eat, and his eyes are just like popping around. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. And he said he wanted rice and beans and stew. And so they brought it in. Then my national director was getting ready to take a picture of Ahmed trying to eat. By the time she got her camera focused, Ahmed has finished eating. The food was gone. Yeah, she said, Ahmed, what happened? He says, well, I want more. You take a picture of the next one. But he ate everything. And the other exciting aspect of it, Ahmed every morning will see children going to school and follow them. Now, he can't go to school now. He's 6 years old, but he so much wanted. It was just something fantastic to see all these kids going to school with their backpacks and everything. And his mother will chase him, but he will run and just follow the kids until they get to the school. And unfortunately for him, mother catches up with him and he has to go back home because he can't go to school. Well, guess what? Ahmed has been registered to go to school. He's got his backpack, he's got his clothing, they're making his school uniform. You know what he said? He said, when I become a doctor, I'm going to buy you a car. Can you imagine that? Now he sees a future. And his parents they can't even believe he'll be the first child to go to school in their family. So what we do is so important. How we express our chiism is so important. It's not about talk, it's about doing the work. And fortunately, many of these kids in Enugu, we got some kids from Enugu, Gombe State, I think, Katsina, Abuja, all parts of Nigeria are being being sponsored. And then we have a program here that's going to sponsor families here in America who have lost their homes and all that. So anyway, I say that to say to you that we're doing things. We have different programs. Chiism has different programs. We've got OMC, we've got Chiism, we've got Chiism Live. So we're in the community doing a whole lot of things. Some of you don't know, but we are. We're training, we're doing all kinds of things. So if you see it in your heart to sponsor a child, please do. It's not going to, even $10 a month, because it takes more than one person to sponsor a child. So think about that. Think about the satisfaction you get. I mean, I feel so good to watch this little boy with his little backpack getting ready to start school. Can you imagine that? Something he never thought. So anyway. Yes.
On the website, where do you go to sponsor somebody? Because I was looking at it and I couldn't.
Yeah, when you go to the website, it shows the child sponsorship program. You see it right there.
Yeah, I clicked on it.
Yeah, if you click it, you'll see all those videos.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, once you go, you see all these kids. We have 100 of them. I'm still loading them. I have some young children from Enugu. You can just take anyone and sponsor. Some of them are sponsored, but it doesn't matter.
Okay,
just sponsor whichever kid. Once they get to $100, then we send the $100 home to them, and it's a subscription. So that means every month that child is getting almost 60 to 70,000 naira every month. Can you imagine?
That's cool.
Can you imagine? Just changing the lives, paying for tuition, school fees, clothing. You should see this little guy when I get the video. Next time I'll show you. He's just dancing. He's got new clothes and everything on just $100.
Okay.
Take it now. So anyway, think about it. Think about it. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. We appreciate that. So anyway, what did you say?
His name is Ali.
Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. So anyway, and that's how we are rooted. Let's remember, in our culture, back then, Back then in our culture, we put food out. Is that not true? We leave food out so that the less privileged will find food to eat. You know, it was not our wealth. That's what we say. Akom de pani. Akom de pani. My wealth is outside of me, and I'm an Igbo woman. You know, and some people say, "Oh, why don't you just do Igbo with children and all?" I said, "But you see, we are Nigerians. We can't do that.
We're African.
We are Africans. If I find a Ghanaian child, because as we move, we're going to do the same thing in Ghana and everywhere. We need to think not in terms of our little tribes, but in terms of the totality of the community. Okay? We're going to do it here in America, and it's going to include everybody. We're not going to restrict it to just African children. We're going to open it up here, you know. So, because there's so many families that call me, they are all in the hotel. Either they're in the hotel and they're being kicked out of the hotel, because some of these places will not take a woman or a man who has children. So that option for a lot of them is not there. So we're going to be now doing sponsoring families and all that sort of thing. So it's exciting. That's part of what it is. You know, if you're a spiritual person, it's not about you carrying the Bible or carrying the Quran or carrying the Bhagavad Gita or carrying whatever, the Torah. No, it's about what do you do? What is that book making you do? It's not about carrying the Nkomi. The Nkomi, what I love about the Nkomi is that Nkomi is based on pragmatic thinking. What you should be doing, not what somebody did. No, what are you supposed to be doing? What is Chineke asking you to do at any given moment in all the different aspects of living? What is it you're doing? What is it you're contributing to? Who are you? Who do you uplift? Who is better off because you are? You know? And then of course, most importantly, it's time for us to tell our own story.
I want to, not get away from sponsoring of the children and all that. I'm going to take care of that. But I just want to briefly touch on what DJ the importance of institutional backing through imperial patronage. What do I mean by imperial patronage? Where the government itself actually makes it a priority that cultural institutions are restored. When I was growing up, and you know this Dibia Ogele, and you know this, I'm sure too, Dibia Chidozi. When we were growing up in the 60s and you turned on the TV and you were watching cartoons, Bugs Bunny and all these Warner Brothers cartoons, whenever they showed a black person in that cartoon, they made a caricature of this black human being with bow and arrow, with big red lips, looking like this savage. And their own rendition of themselves was always this white person or damsel trying to civilize you. And they always end up beating up the black person, you know, and destroying you just like you are nothing. We never had cartoons where you saw the black character doing anything else or acting like they're on the same equal par or on the same par with the European. Even when they did a caricature of the Arab, it was always this Arab with this big nose and his dagger, and here comes the white person, and they get rid of the Arab. We didn't have such things. I grew up reading Bello and Bintu, but Bello and Bintu was not talking about African culture or anything. Bello Bintu was telling me how to pronounce lorry. This is a lorry. Bello is going into the lorry. The lorry, you understand what I'm saying? We never saw anything backed by the communication department or industry in Africa that did anything to make the African look like he or she was on the same level until, I don't know if you ever, Dr. Chido, have you ever heard of Boomerang? Fearless Fang? You remember that? Then he came and kind of dealt with the idea that this white guy comes from Europe and talks to animals when people living there already can't talk to the damn gorillas. Tarzan. It was a way of counteracting Tarzan, and we started reading Celestine, and boom, all of a sudden, I forgot about reading Tarzan. I couldn't wait every Tuesday for the mailman to deliver some lance spearman or boomerang.
We used to fight over it. We used to fight over who's going to read it first.
You understand what I'm saying? I saw last spearman, all of a sudden, it wasn't about 57 Princes on TV or Kojak or James Bond.
Yes.
Last spearman was not James Bond. He was a black guy, and he talked a whole lot of this. I loved it. So some of us grew up in Africa, and we were attempting to put Africans on the table as a European.
Yes.
Then at some point that went away through the 70s,
Yes.
or late 70s, through the 80s, and the proliferation of what do you call it, prosperity religion took hold.
Yeah.
All this reverend, like Lithuania or whoever, all those people just telling with them, telling to bastardize, demonize everything. You were not represented anywhere in African media positively. Then Nollywood came in and made it even worse with their. I saw a movie called Beyonce and Rihanna, and there were two Nigerian girls trying to be like Beyonce and Rihanna. You never really saw anything coming out of Nollywood that extolled African culture and tradition above everything else. So it is so important that media, from written books, novels, to cartoons, animation, to movies, to try to elevate us beyond what it is that we are normally seen as inferior. That's why we were very happy when Black Panther came. Every conceivable black human being that I can think of all over the world had to go and see it. We couldn't believe there was a black superstar, even though Black Panther has been around. I've been reading Black Panther since the 70s in Nigeria. I was a comic book head. Asterix the Gaul. I read it all. You know that, Ogele. We read more comic books in Ekulu, Enugu, GRA than any other generation ever.
Yes.
In all of Africa.
Yeah.
Comic book was my Michael Conway, full of comic books which came from his own, Conan the Barbarian. You name it, we read it all. Apart from Lance Spearman and Boomerang, I never saw anything in media that made us feel like we were on the same level as the European. So for me, it's really imperative that institutions, government institutions, private institutions get into the battle of media to promote things that are authentically African. Whether it's real or not, fantasy, whatever it is, spaceman, moon man, bring the Dibia to become a superhero, whatever it is that you're doing, promote things that are authentically African in every aspect of media, commercials, comic books, movies, plays, put it out there. This is the only way to reach those parents that are so Christianized or Islamized that they can't see straight. When they turn on the TV and they see Africa being represented positively, when we bring back the kind of, spirit and enthusiasm that we had for Festac 77, create institutions that make sure that we have those kinds of celebration of African culture, music every 4 years in Africa. In South Africa, this year. Just like the Olympics will be in Nigeria. In 4 years, just like the Olympics will be in Ghana. So on and so forth.
But it's not very easy though, Yudi. It's not very easy. That's the biggest problem. It's not easy. You're always going to have obstructionists. in the way.
It's okay.
You know, but our people, UD, we're like drums. You know, we make a lot of noise. You know, there's an African proverb that talks about the fact that, you know, some of us African people are like drums. We make a lot of noise, but we're hollow inside. You know, that's true. This is a Sudanese proverb. A lot of noise. You know, I don't get excited when I see a lot of our people who are talking about, you know, when we're wearing our clothes and all that sort of thing, and you know, and then they come out. You know, I was at an event in Michigan, and this so-called king came from Africa, and there was all this fanfare around him, and he's going to make people king, you know, make chiefs. You know, they pay him $1,000 so that he will, you know, he make them chiefs. You know, they're not authentic. But here's the thing: all of us were making all that noise, like drums, empty drums, bragging about being African, and then these African people who want to learn about us and standing around and revering our culture, right? Then after we come with our pomposity and we're dressed in all our African regalia, and then what do? Then we break the kola nut, and they are so anxious, they're so eager, they just want to hear, and then you say, in the name of what? I gotta finish. You talk about being deflated. You know, the expression of wonderment, the expression of joy in these Africans who are trying to reclaim their culture. Then all of a sudden you say, and here's a man who's this king. You know, of course they have to present him to the kola first. You know, now he's the custodian of African culture. That's what they don't understand. You being a king and being a chief, you're a custodian. You're supposed to be the person teaching what we're all about. So they give him the kola nut, and he stands up there in his big, you know, and everybody's like just saying, and then he breaks the kola nut for everybody, and then he says, in the name of Jesus. No, I'm just trying to tell you how deflated the guests were who came there to see African culture. They paid their money to come and see this African king in his regalia, and all these people fanning him, and oh my goodness. When he gets through using, and he was not using English, he was using his language, Igbo language, saying all these things, and of course the guests didn't know what he was saying, but they were just enamored by his presence, and you watch their faces, it just deflated. You have some people say, oh man, you know, that kind of thing. They understand that this man has just messed up. He's not real. He's not authentic. That's not what they were looking for. They were looking for originality. They wanted to be showed who they are. That's what I'm saying to you guys. You cannot be a tree and convert yourself into sticks. People like that came here as strong in our eyes. At least that's the image they give. As strong trees, kings, all that stuff. Then they become sticks because they perpetuate the nonsense that they have been, you know. Go ahead.
When we went to the same thing happened, all these kids got together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was embarrassing.
So I understand that. I actually understand. Yet, here's what I also know. First fact was an impossibility. It became possible. The fight for independence in Nigeria or Ghana was an impossibility. It became possible. The only difference is that the masses, well, most of them, not all of them, wanted to be free from colonial rule. Because if I remember, the Zinc Act for colonial rule, and then for independent rule, when he was in 15 years, I think it was in 1988. One Reverend Father said that the this devil thing that he can use that. So you have people that just self-defecate. We know that, right? But you got to come before you walk. You got to start talking about it. You got to talk about it, and then you got to pray. You know, you may start from independent institutions trying to bring right minds together, having the right. Because sometimes these things depend on knowledge who's telling the story. How are you telling this story? A lot of people are trying to be cheap and all that. They just want to feed the stuff up. They make money. They're not
money.
They're not traditionally. These people were first people before they became AJs and kings and queens and whatever it is called. It's different from the land. You can't do that in Benin. People will tell you. You can't go to Benin say that you are not. And you have to
Nope.
because those people, their culture was never colonized.
Yes.
Igbo culture was colonized all the way down to the grain of sand. You go to my village in Umporo, the chiefs are in church on Sunday. They will come and talk about tradition. Oh, you have to bring the wine, the brown wine. Let's pour libation. You have to be this and let's do that. But they're in church on Sunday, speaking from both sides of their mouth. You can't talk anything to say. So if I'm doing anything, I'm only I'm interested in the people that have the power, the government, and individuals and organizations that are mentally where you and me where we are. Like mine are what you seek, and you hope that you have leadership that actually understands the culture, place, in terms of the opulence of the people, our culture keeps you from being overrun by those from without. Without culture, you cannot defend yourself against reality. You need it both for your own political, economic, social growth. You got to have it. So all this people run around and all that stuff and break and kill and all in the name of they are the last people that people like you think about when we talk about bringing us back. And actually putting together paperwork that explains the importance of exercise and the economic and social benefits to the African global community. Those people are just there money. Remember, there are two kinds of chiefs in Igbo land. I know that is clear. There are government appointed chiefs and they are traditional. And most of the people you see are the government appointed.
Yes.
The traditional on Sunday. And they have no power.
Yes. Yes. That is true. Dibia Chedozie, your comments?
Yeah. My comment really is simple. Most of these people you talk about, they don't understand culture. They don't understand what culture is. They think that culture is about the adumbration, the physical aspect of it. They don't understand that culture is about the spirituality. And because they don't understand what culture is, they don't even understand what it means to be a person. Because if you don't understand culture, you don't understand that it is the core, the heart, the handbridge of culture. Then you can't even understand identity of who you are. And one simple way, the easiest way of dismantling a culture is to ask that the nucleus to clone that culture, which is what Christianity does. Christianity clones your culture. And how does it go? Because in cloning, what you do is that you get the egg from the woman, you dislodge the nucleus of the egg, and plant the nucleus as the particular man that you want his cell to replicate in the ovum. The egg you are taking from the woman, and division begins immediately because it is not the nucleus of that particular woman. The nucleus introduced, which is what you have done is to fertilize it. And so Christianity clones your culture. And it clones your culture when you are asked not to take harvest to our own forefathers' ways of Ahajoku, Ifejoku. You are asked to bring this to the church of the Almighty, who is greater than our own culture, our own God, they minimize and reduce our own God into small letter G and make their own B. And then immediately you are saying, so you can do, it is not bad. What is bad is that you call libation, you do this, you do that. If you come and do it in the church, and then you do it in Jesus' name, so like Esther did that when she started. She said, you are bound out of ignorance, and because you want to be recognized by everything, you want to belong by everything, then you now abandon the thickness of your spirituality and quickly pop onto another person's spirituality. And that is why our leadership is falling. For instance, I think when Jimmy Carter visited, then I was small, when Jimmy Carter visited Nigeria, one thing happened. Our president then, Obasanjo, head of state, he produced low profile, 544, assembled in Nigeria. But the thing there is that when Jimmy Carter said, called him by name and said, be careful, right? He abandoned our head of state, abandoned his own entourage and those who drove him there and hopped into Jimmy Carter's limousine. So that's the kind of thing that we do. We don't understand the issue of what spirituality is. That once you remove the nucleus of a particular culture, the spirituality, what you have is holiness. So that is what is responsible for all of that is happening. People want to belong. So to sum it up, I think that was the year 2006, or was it 1996? I was traveling back to the east. And so there was this man reading the Bible, preaching it and all that. They showed this our usual home video. And everybody was laughing. I wasn't laughing. You're denigrating our culture. I have to explain the particular thing they're talking about, what the deity they're talking about, the panpsychism. That what we needed, what our forefathers did was to create an engine. Like you create satellites these days. You create an engine who watches and codes what people are doing when physical human beings are not there. So when you invoke it, you invoke the key, just like you have a key to your computer. You have a password to your computer. When you use the password, it will tell you who did what.
Yes.
That is the mechanism there. And the other man said that the only thing that his father was a big Dibia. And that the father now abandoned Dibia and then went to church and burned all his paraphernalia. And I asked him, did your father understood Dibia in form, the form of it, the formalism of it, the spirituality of it? Can he explain what Dibia means? He said, no, Dibia is very usual. Why do you bring Okuko? Why blood? He said, no, blood activates. I said, well, what is it in the blood that activates? He said, it doesn't know. I said, hemoglobin. And you say, you read science. What is hemoglobin? It's a kind of oxygen. And if you go to science, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, these are the three elements that are carriers of messages and energy. He opened his mouth and said, that is the thing that is there. So they don't understand Jack. So, and these are the people who use money to go and buy chieftaincy. That's not a chief in my hometown. So a lot of people who belong in this category, they want to take chieftaincy. They are calling to give it to. I said, I don't want to be a chief because it's a colonial legacy. Like Ojukwu said, Jim Ojukwu said, the name chief has a notorious rhyme with chief. He would prefer to be known as a dim because that's what we are. Dimba. That's the best hunter, the best wrestler, a government of the best. That's the kind of government that we run. So, colonization really dealt with us. We spent 40 years fighting the white man, and then civil war came and dealt with us again. And what the British introduced in spoiling the Igbo culture, bringing in one chief, bringing in a Fulefus, who did not know about the culture, the spirituality, to head our spirituality. was continued after the Civil War. That is the battle we have to fight specifically in Igbo land. And it is not only in Igbo land, it's all over Africa.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, listen. Thank you, Ndewonu. Thank you, all of you who have joined us today. Remember, continue to be a tree. Stay firm. Be rooted. Don't allow yourself to be reduced to branches. And stop using your low branches that you've become to whip other people who want to remain to be trees. Thank you so very much, all of you. Those who joined us on Chiism on the Facebook page and YouTube channel. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to have you again next week as we continue this journey of self-actualization. Oh, and incidentally, we have grown, our YouTube has grown by almost 60 subscribers, since the last time. So that's wonderful. Keep it up. Keep it up. And I dare all of you to please share the website, share Chiism Live on YouTube with your friends so that they can subscribe and we get bigger and bigger and continue to do with the work for you that we're doing. Yagazieno. So it is.